Here we are in 2024. Everyone loves talking about a bit of a labor uprising that we're seeing, especially when it comes to the service sector, which is kind of where the working class is, right? Do you guys find a little bit of hope in that? Because it seems like the service sector, and granted, it's still the Starbucks unions and things like that, are quite powerless, right? But do you think there is a politicization of the unions, or is it still just smoke and mirrors and a lot of people excited about Starbucks?
I mean, I think we're starting to see perhaps a kind of turn toward an orientation toward class struggle unionism. You see people like Sarah Nelson, and so there is a kind of perceptible turn toward a class struggle or social justice unionism. But I think the challenge right now, and this we don't really get into this in the book, but I think the challenge right now is really to get beyond kind of isolated rebellions and defensive struggles, and find a way to connect this in a class way, in a broader way. And I think in terms of what you suggest about the service sector being where the working class is at, I think that's true. But I also think really the white whale of contemporary labor struggles, I'm not sure it's the right metaphor, but I'm going to go with it anyway, is Amazon. It's Amazon, and I think that's I think that is where that's where the workers are. You want to talk about big facilities where thousands of workers are working together in incredibly alienating conditions. Amazon.
Look, I'm with you. Before we parted ways with Zero Books, I made a video essay for Zero Books. I think the title was like, Nomad Land is a neoliberal whitewashing of something. I can't remember. But that movie, Oscar-winning movie, sets Amazon as kind of the employer of record. There's literally a person in that movie that has a repetitive hand injury in real life, because there was real people in that movie, and they're playing a role that they literally can't do in real life using that machine. As much as we can talk about how much we hate Amazon, are we addicted to the just-in-time financial model enough for us to try to be militant? I mean, if you guys don't want to answer this, I understand. Look, I was excited about Chris Smalls. He was a guest on the show when I started 5 years ago. What happened to all that energy around that moment? It felt like, oh, we could just make you famous.
Yeah, I think the ALU is a tough case, and I think I think having one recognition and then kind of not continued organizing. I think there was a lot of problems with the Staten Island model. I'm not sure. I'm not here to trash the ALU, but I think that there's other approaches that could be perhaps more effective. And I think there was some mistakes made that ultimately made things turn out the way that they did. And now you see the other challenges coming from bigger unions like the Teamsters, thinking they're going to come in and organize Amazon, and maybe they will have some successes. But that comes with its own challenges, because obviously the Teamsters are not known for being bastions of progressive politics, whatever the leadership might have changed. And so it doesn't exactly there's going to be other challenges that emerge from that. But I think that in terms of looking at Starbucks, it's an important victory, but it's what, I forget the number. It's a couple isolated facilities, spread across the entire country. Amazon is more significant to me, because you're talking about large numbers of workers, especially in the fulfillment centers, working shoulder to shoulder in the kinds of conditions you read about in Capital Volume 1, which should be and facing grievances that should be able to be the basis for broader organizing. And something like Amazon would mean something from a class perspective, right? It would actually potentially transform the class, depending on how it's organized and how the struggle plays out after that. But
it feels again, I wasn't alive in the 20s, 30s. You know, I wish I could have been around for the Pullman Porter, you know, organization. But with Amazon, it feels like almost too big to organize. They're usually especially in depressed economic areas, the employer of record. And what I mean by that, I mean they're going to pay some really high wages where you could probably maybe not buy a house, but at least afford to live somewhat comfortably. Um, it seems like it's almost impossible to organize. I mean, anything can be organized, but
Yeah.
what are we missing strategically? I know you guys don't write about this in your book, but now we're on this Amazon roll. Because I agree with you. I agree with both of you. I think this is logistics. We saw it with UPS.
Yeah.
Right? How quick people, oh, hey, we don't want to shut down UPS. We definitely don't want to shut down the cheap shit that we get from Amazon. We rely on that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to me, I think that the challenges with Amazon are not just the size, although the size is a part of it, but you know, there's a very high rate of turnover among the workforce. You know, there's extremely tight discipline over what workers do and when they do it, when they're at work, who they talk to, how long they can spend talking to each other, where they can go. The time management, you know, like Mark says in Volume 1, moments are the elements of profit. I mean, that really, you could see that in Amazon. And so there's a tremendous, the rate of turnover alone makes it a huge challenge. But, you know, I think it's doable. I think, you know, if you look at the CIO organizing in the 30s, there's obviously very different situation, but also a lot of similarities and some similar challenges. So I think it is doable. I feel like it's possible and the opportunity's there. I just think, you know, it's obviously not going to be easy.
Scott?
Yeah, I think, and you know, one of the other issues that compounds the difficulty, and I completely agree with what Steve just said, is that Amazon itself is incredibly financialized. You know, Steve and I were talking today and looking at Amazon's, you know, vast list of first-party suppliers. And you realize really, really quickly that this is an institution that has subcontracting relationships with, you know, hundreds, nearly thousands of firms, mostly located in the global south, to carry out, you know, various forms of production that they see fit based on, you know, the sales process on their website. And so that, of course, raises another range of challenges. This financialized kind of, you know, model of investment. But you know, as Steve just mentioned, you know, there is, I think, an opportunity, despite its size, to organize, and I think that should certainly be, you know, one of the focal points of the labor movement because of its central place within retail, within merchant capital, in the circuit of accumulation more generally.